Today's episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast is brought to you by AOS Outdoor Kitchens. They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. Today we'll be speaking to Kev from Comp Barbecue UK, who's going to talk us through everything competition barbecuing in the UK, and it'll be great to hear his story and learn more. And please do have a look around our Instagram page, socials, and also our website. You'll see a new feature where you can send us a message. We'd love to hear from you, but please note we're not able to reply back through it, so leave your name, and if you'd like us to get back to you, the best way you'd like us to contact you. But I can't wait to hear more from Kev. So without much further ado, here is Kev. Hello, Kev. Thank you so much for coming on to another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. For anyone who doesn't know, please do introduce yourself and how you're linked to barbecue.
Hey guys, listen, thanks so much for having me. So, how am I involved in barbecue? So, emotionally, I'm involved in barbecue on a general level, but more specifically, I, along with my wife, run an organisation called Comp Barbecue UK, and we, as well as organising our own barbecue contests in various different locations and different events. We also kind of promote other people's contests and try and get more people involved in competition barbecue. And then outside of that, me and my wife also go and judge loads of barbecue contests here in the UK, in Europe, occasionally in America. So yeah, we get about a bit when it comes to barbecue and competition barbecue.
I mean, straight off the bat, judging competition barbecue. I mean, who doesn't want to just sit there and eat loads of free food,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. It sounds like so enticing, right? And when we do the occasional comps where you can see the judging happening in front of the people, you can see kind of people standing there going, "Oh my god, this is incredible! This is like amazing." But there's particular types of competition. So the really classic American low and slow competition, KCBS, which is the Kansas City Barbecue Society, their contest, that pork ribs, pork shoulder, brisket. And there is nothing more depressing than when you've sat there for an hour and a half eating the first three, to then be faced with invariably 6 great big thick incredibly savory slices of brisket, which if you were just eating them on their own, you'd be like that, oh my god, this is amazing. But when you're full and all you want is an ice cream, trying to get those 6 bits of brisket down is listen, I'm not going to say it's the hardest thing in the world, but it's up there.
Am I right with KCBS though? It everything's kind of very regimented in the way that the presentation, it has to have, they get served in those little boxes and it has to have a tiny little bit of green, and you have to has to be sliced and everything in a very sort of uniform. And is that the same across all of the, obviously if you're judging a lot of competitions, does that generally happen across all types of competition, or is it specific to KCBS where it is very regimented how they want it?
It's funny actually, because in the UK we've got a huge scene at the moment of what we loosely call freestyle barbecue competitions, which, as the name suggests, is much more free form. There's much more kind of creativity involved in the dishes, and essentially whoever's setting the rules can set the rules and the rounds and whatever as much as they like, doing whatever they like. But you're right, yeah. So KCBS, which there's only one KCBS contest in the UK this year, which was one that we organised, same last year. But there are a fair few in Europe, and there are hundreds in the States. And every single one of those contests, I think there was something like 600 KCBS contests last year. I didn't count them all, but roughly. Obviously, the bulk in America. Every single one of those is done to exactly the same set of rules, standards, timings. The only difference is in America, all of the turn-ins happen on Saturdays, whereas for some reason, all the turn-ins happen on Sundays in the UK and Europe. But yeah, so it is funny that when me and my wife go and judge in Europe at some of the KCBS contests in Belgium and the Netherlands, that when we go to America, you're doing exactly the same thing 5,000 miles away from where you last did it, and it's exactly the same. Things taste pretty much the same. The boxes look exactly the same. It's kind of very impressive, but also there does come a point where you go, oh, I wish there was a dessert round coming next rather than another meat round.
And you mentioned something that interests me there, the fact that you said stuff kind of tastes similar across the globe.
Yeah.
Then let's talk more about that, because I think a lot of people will be guilty in thinking that classically UK barbecue is behind Europe and America, and there would be quite a lot of differences, particularly in competition barbecue. So how much further ahead are we than people think? And if there are subtle differences, what do they tend to be?
So in terms of competition, the worst barbecue I've ever eaten in contest barbecue was in the States. In fact, both times we've judged in America, the standard was much lower than we normally see in Europe. So what you tend to get is, because with KCBS particularly, you're not judging, or the teams aren't trying to cook something that the judges will like. They're trying to cook standard, which is set by KCBS, and that is broadly kind of complementary taste, not too savoury, not too sweet, not too sour, not too salty, all that sort of stuff, but everything balanced out. The textures are laid out, so what the meat should and shouldn't do, and what they need to look like in the box. So it's very standard. Inevitably, what's happened is that when we've kind of imported competition barbecue, or that type of competition barbecue, into Europe, a lot of the flavors have come with it. And because, particularly I would say in the early days of competition barbecue, kind of 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was hard to get like European barbecue sauces, like really good quality. So a lot of people bought barbecue sauces from the States, or there was companies bringing them over and selling them on. So there's this kind of ongoing kind of knowing glance that goes around barbecue teams and judges, which is when you get an entry, or you've cooked an entry that's got Blues Hog on it, or has got a sauce based around Blues Hog barbecue sauce, everybody knows, because everyone knows it's such a good, inoffensive sauce that you can tweak a little bit here and there to make it match the meat and things like that. So inevitably, the teams kind of all find a level, what scores well, what is kind of inoffensive enough that no one's going to be sat there going, oh my God, it's too spicy, oh my God, it's too sweet, but equally is interested enough and tastes enough like barbecue that the judges are interested in it, and it tastes nice. So yeah, it's kind of, we are far ahead, I would say, in terms of quality. Obviously, in terms of the size of the community and the competition environment, it's much smaller, and obviously it's much more niche, and so many people don't know there's a competition barbecue scene, or I've never heard of it. It's one of those things. So yeah, so we're kind of like, definitely in terms of quality, we're up there. We've got one of the best teams in the world in the UK. So a bunch of Swines have been to the States. They've won in the States. They've won some of the biggest contests in the States, and they turn up to pretty much all of our contests here in the UK. And they're great. Ed and Emma have Bunch of Swines, and they'll pass on their knowledge to everyone. But yeah, so we're not far behind at all in terms of competition barbecue. Just in terms of scale, it'd be great if we could get it bigger.
And you mentioned a lot more in the UK, etc., that there's freestyle more so than the kind of the strict KCBS stuff. So typically, then what are you finding? What are the rounds, and how do they differ, or do they differ from competition to competition if you are doing kind of freestyle?
Yeah, I think what you see with freestyle is that you can kind of go as big as you like or as small as you like. So in theory, what you can do is you can kind of pare it right back, and the organizer, whoever's setting the rules, can make it really simple. So, on one hand, they could go, right, it's chicken drumsticks. That's it. You've got to turn in 6 chicken drumsticks, 10 chicken drumsticks, whatever it might be. And it can be as simple as that. At the other end of the scale, you've got these really kind of nebulous themes like banquet or picnic or pie or things like that, and the whole gamut of things in between those two things as well. So it depends what the organizer wants. If they want it to be big and visual for an audience, maybe when it's being judged, then yeah, they'll tend to go big. They'll go big platters of this, or big banquets of that. If they're looking for kind of really specific skills that they want people to show, they might go a bit smaller, go very specific in terms of what they want teams to cook. What's all at the heart of barbecue competitions is teams, right? So you want teams to want to come and show off essentially what they can do. So you need to make the rounds interesting to them as well, and something that they want to cook. So we talk about KCBS. If you just went, oh, we're doing a freestyle contest and it's the same as KCBS, but it's to our rules, not to KCBS's rules, then the teams aren't going to be that keen, because it's not very interesting. So you've got to make it interesting for the teams. You've got to challenge the teams and get them to be interested in it as well.
I'd love to come, because you mentioned obviously some of the events that you do as well as promoting others. I'd love to come sort of back to that in a minute, about what you kind of look to do when you with your own events. But just quickly back to the judging side. If you are trying 6 or 7 versions of the same chicken, the same pork ribs, the same brisket, etc., no matter whether it's in the UK or US, and they are following the same sort of rules, how do you pick?
Well, the key thing is, right, and as hard as it is, and probably almost impossible to do, the general rule is that you don't compare one to another. So you taste one and you judge it purely on its merits. So if it's a chicken thigh, generally you'll take one bite. You'll think about the texture. You'll think about, did the skin come off? Did it bite through? Did the meat come away from the bone? Then you'll think about kind of what it feels like in your mouth, and then you'll think about the taste. Is there like a nice balance? Like I said, is it too salty, too sweet, whatever? And the idea is that once you've finished judging that, you'll score it against what we call the KCBS standard, which is the perfect kind of chicken thigh. And then once you finish that, you'll move on to the next one, but you'll kind of almost try and forget the first one completely and start all over again. We're all human beings, so obviously that's never going to be adhered to kind of constantly, but that's what you try to do. So even if you get another one that tastes completely different, and maybe it's flavors that you much prefer, you still try and go, okay, I might prefer these flavors. Are they a nice balance? Is it sweet enough, salty enough, savory enough, whatever? And then again, try and judge it completely on its own merits, and try and get rid of your own preconceptions about what's nice and what's not. So that's how you try and do it. You try not to compare. And we try and bring that through into kind of the freestyle side of things as well. It can be very easy for one freestyle entry to be huge and over the top and kind of really dramatic to look at, and then one that adheres to exactly the same set of rules to be quite small and kind of not underwhelming, but kind of basic. And actually, if the rules don't say it needs to be massive or it needs to be small, you've got to kind of go, okay, so what are the rules? The rules are, it's got to have cheese in it, for instance. Can I taste the cheese? Is the cheese nice? Is it have a nice balance? So you should be able to judge those two things fairly independently, despite the fact that they're quite different and also, look different, taste different, or whatever. So that's the theory anyway, and that's what we try and do. And it sounds kind of grandiose, but it is hard, especially when you've just eaten something which you really liked, and then you get something which you kind of, I'm not so sure, but I still need to try and judge it objectively and kind of make sure I'm giving it the kind of the focus and commitment that I should.
Mm-hmm. And when you're kind of planning the events that you're doing, is it that there's like a set ruling that you need to plan everything across, and what are the different types of kind of events that you plan, whether it be in the UK or anything you're linked with in Europe as well?
So we try and keep relatively consistent in terms of the kind of the overall structure. So generally you will have a number of rounds which make up a contest. And sometimes you'll have contest on the Saturday and a contest on the Sunday, which are completely separate. And sometimes you'll have rounds on a Saturday and rounds on a Sunday, which will be added together just for one whole weekend contest. So generally speaking, the structure of barbecue contests is done in rounds, usually kind of 3 or 4 per day, which can add it up to a contest. There's some types of contests which are kind of very, very simple. So SCA, which is the State Cook-Off Association, that's another American-based organisation, which we're doing a lot more in the UK at the moment. That's a really simple contest for people to get involved in, because you can turn up with a kettle or even just a chimney starter and some charcoal and a match, and you can compete with all of the other teams with their huge setups to cook one steak. The steak gets provided for you, so everyone kind of has the same quality steak. And if you can cook that on your kettle or just your chimney star or whatever, then it's kind of a level playing field. It's really nice and simple. And the reason I say chimney star is because some teams do cook their steaks over chimney starters to get the heat. So generally speaking, yeah, contest structures and the events around them are quite standard. We try and do our events at places that are quite visible. So we try and do kind of like food festivals, music festivals, and things like that. Things we know where the public are going to be, because our main ethos as Comp Barbecue UK is to try and get more people involved, get more people interested, not just in competition barbecue, in barbecue in general. So there are some private contests knocking around as well, but if we can do ours very visually, where people who might be interested are, then that's great for us. We can use it as a bit of a shop front for getting people interested and involved.
And typically, how many events are you doing at these food festivals, like you said, music festivals? What does a typical comp season look like in the UK?
So for us, so this is only our second year organising contests. So we only did one last year, but weirdly, it was kind of quite a big one, not in terms of teams, but the location. So last year we did our very first contest, a festival called Valley Fest down near Bristol, which is like a huge music festival, which is organised at least in part by the same people that do Glastonbury. So it's like a massive music festival on this beautiful farm that overlooks, I think it's Chew Magna Reservoir, just outside Bristol. And we did it there, and it was an amazing contest. It rained all weekend, and on the Saturday morning the Sunday morning, the water main burst at the top of the hill, and we had a river running through our contest area all day, which was great fun. But that was our first one. This year we've done 2. We did a contest at Tubby Tom's. So for anyone who doesn't know, Tubby Tom makes amazing rubs, sauces, seasonings out of his unit just outside Gloucester. He organised a really small kind of festival just on his industrial estate and asked us to organise a contest there. That was great fun. Just one day, we did an SCA steak round and I think 3 rounds of freestyle. We had guest judges. We got who were pals of ours. They came along and did some judging and all kinds of stuff. It was such good fun, really small, but such good fun. And then about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we ran our second contest, Cheltenham Food and Drink Festival, which was really good. I mean, weather was beautiful. We had 8 teams. People there, obviously there for food and drink and stuff, so people were interested. And yeah, it was a great contest. We're hoping to do 3 contests next year. Fingers crossed we'll do another one with Tubby Tom. Hopefully we might do Cheltenham again, fingers crossed. And we're kind of thinking about a few options for a third one, whether we tag it onto an existing event or whether we maybe organise something, not sure. But yeah, so we're hoping to do 3 next year. Outside of that, there's probably this year, since COVID, there's been more contests this year. than we've had for a long time. So although they had to cancel one, ProQ organised a couple. Everyone, the weekend just gone, or a fair few people were down at the Great Dorset Chili Festival doing a chili cook-off down there. We've got, what else have we got coming up?
I know Smoke and
Oh,
Fire.
Mould and Smoke and Fire, obviously, yeah, in a week or so's time. So yeah, there's kind of more stuff than ever before, and if we're not organising it, then generally we turn up to make a nuisance of ourselves and either judge or just say hello to friends and stuff.
It's just out of interest, obviously now organising your own as well as promoting others, and like you said, kind of being there and judging. How what's the perception of the general public? So if it is at a music festival that's not particularly barbecue, I still think barbecue is still fairly niche in the UK.
Oh yeah,
in
definitely.
comparison. Yeah, even though there is a big community,
yeah,
because we're in it, we know it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know when there is literally 8 teams that are lined up over a load of in their gazebos or whatever, just in an area.
Yeah.
What is the kind of general perception from members of the public and about?
I would say the primary reaction is one of confusion, but for the right reasons, because and that's kind of what we want, because we want more people to find out about it. So if they weren't confused, it means they knew about it before, and there's no point. But yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting thing to see when you turn up at a food festival. You turn around a corner and there's a line of 8 gazebos with various different types of barbecues out in front. There's offsets, and there's barrel smokers, and there's bullet smokers, and there's kettles on the go, there's pellet grills, there's all sorts going on. And it's very visually kind of interesting. So you get a lot of people going, what's this? What's going on? And that's great, because you can tell them and go, this is a barbecue contest. This is a big deal in America. We do it here as well, and this is it. And I think hopefully what people who might be interested in it see as well is that it's relatively easy to get into. Lots of people think that it's all professional chefs or people who cook for a living, and it's not. It's just people have got a passion for this hobby, which is for a weekend, trying to cook the best food they can to impress invariably some people that they know, and some friends and stuff. Friendly competition amongst the teams, and then they all go out for a drink and a meal in the evening, or if they're all camping there, they all sit around a fire pit and drink and chat and kind of have a laugh and a joke. And it's such a social community, but also visually kind of very arresting for someone who's never seen it, particularly if someone's general experience of a barbecue is a B&Q grill which they spent an hour and a half screwing together, used twice over the summer, and then it's rusting behind the shed. To see all these different types of barbecue and grills and whatever, it can be really interesting for the people who've got even just the slightest interest in it, to all of a sudden go, wow, there's this whole world of barbecues, of food, of social get-togethers that never knew existed. So yeah, that's a very long and convoluted way of saying confusion generally.
Rolling back a little bit, how did you even get into this, and when did your
that is a question I get a lot.
And also, like, where did your barbecue journey start, and how did it progress into organizing competition standard barbecue?
So I've always been interested in cooking, so I've always been a bit of a kitchen warrior, kind of cooking, and then, like most people would, kind of barbecue over the summer. I think my first barbecue was first proper barbecue was a 37 centimeter compact Weber, and it's tiny. I've still got it, and it's absolutely kind of minuscule now. But I had that, and I used to use that a lot. And then I can't remember, it was a birthday, and we were having like a small kind of birthday party, and for some reason I'd seen on TV about this brand new invention called pulled pork, And I was like that, oh, I'm going to do that. With no kind of real knowledge. And I remember trying to Google kind of how to do it, how long to cook it for, and then realizing that I couldn't just do that it wasn't just a case of putting the lid on the barbecue, that I had to offset the coals and all this sort of stuff. And I did that for that birthday party. And then I think slowly from there, it gathered a bit of pace until one day, for a reason I still don't know, a kind of a sponsored or advert popped up on Facebook for this festival, which was called the Big Meat. It was organised and run by James from JL Butchers, and this is a few years ago, which fingers crossed is coming back very soon. But there was this festival and it had barbecue in the name, or barbecue in the description. So me and my wife went, oh, let's just go down there. You know, it's 3 hours away, but we've got nothing else to do. And we turned up at this festival, and we turned up at about midday. And what generally happens is that once the teams have cooked everything and turned it in, anything they've got left, generally they've cooked loads of ribs and to turn in 6, they kind of give them out. And we were just walking around, and these teams were just handing out these kind of gastro pans full of ribs, and we were going, oh my God, this is the best rib I've ever eaten. Oh no, actually, this is the best rib I've ever eaten. Oh no, this is the best rib I've ever eaten. And that was kind of our introduction to competition barbecue. Just stumbled on it completely by accident. The next year at the same festival, the Big Meat, they were running a judging course. So I went along and did that. So we judged that year, and then we judged the year after. And then someone was running a KCBS judging course, that John Gower down at Smoke on the Water. So we went there, we did that judging course, and it just kind of snowballed. It was like one thing after another, one thing after another. And the next thing, you know, you're sat on a Eurotunnel at 7 o'clock in the morning to drive 7 hours to the Netherlands to judge a barbecue contest kind of midday, only to turn around at 3 o'clock and drive all the way back home again because you've got to go to work the next day. It's kind of, it kind of snowballs, and then you blink and you're like, what the hell am I doing? This is the weirdest hobby in the world. And at one point I thought I wanted to compete, so I got really interested in competing, but really struggled to find any information. There was little bits here and there, but nobody was kind of pulling together kind of information for people who are interested in competing. And I ended up getting the phone number of one of the teams who were at that festival, Sean from Joker Smokers, who's still competing now, and just spending an hour and a half on the phone with him, going, like, what is it you need? What do you do? And then I kind of thought, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a website that pulls all of the information I've found out and just puts it there for people. And that's how Comp Barbecue UK started. We were just an information website, and it's just grown from there. We started doing more and more, working with different people. And, here we are organising 2 or 3 contests a year now for our sins, which sometimes is great. And then other times it feels like the worst decision you've ever made when you're, particularly for my wife, when she sets up the WhatsApp groups with the teams, and the teams have got 1,001 ridiculous questions that they need answers to before they arrive. And it seems like a very silly idea to have got involved. But yeah, we do it together. There's only 2 of us at the moment. But yeah, so we kind of just do everything we can to spread the word, organise contests, promote other people's contests, and yeah, sometimes you go, I don't really know how we got here. I don't really know how we ended up spending all of these weekends in all these random small towns in Belgium, all because we accidentally stumbled on a contest at a festival in the UK. I think in 2016, I think it was. Yeah.
If you've been looking or thinking about an outdoor kitchen, then look no further than AOS Outdoor Kitchens.
They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.
Their extensive showroom is based just outside Bournemouth on the Dorset-Hampshire border, and as well as numerous in-store displays, also features a live outdoor kitchen where they cook every week on Kamado grills, pizza ovens, and all filmed and shown on YouTube.
They offer a wealth of knowledge on how to transform your patio into the most incredible outdoor dining area with styles and options to suit every budget. And you can guarantee they will be able to create something perfectly suited to you and your home.
They stock and supply everything that you're going to need for outdoor cooking, including barbecues, Kamado ovens, pizza ovens, outdoor fridges, and every accessory that you would need to become the ultimate outdoor chef.
So if you want to make yourself the envy of your friends and neighbours, get in touch with them today to arrange a consultation and take the first step in transforming your back garden into the most incredible entertainment space.
Visit aoskitchens.co.uk.
You make a very good point. So, I mean, Owen and I have actually talked about kind of competing in the past and the pros and cons of it. I think the difference is Owen loves cooking for people. I love eating barbecue food. And it's two very different reasons to cook. I think we'll end up at least trying to compete a few times. But looking at it, driving to Newcastle from where we are down kind of relatively south, kind of Essex, Suffolk way, it's arguably longer than driving to some areas in Europe. And yet we never would have thought about the European scene. So can you talk us a bit through the European scene? And also, if people want to get involved, where do you even begin? They can go to the website, obviously. What would you recommend?
So with Europe specifically, it's mainly KCBS and SCA. So if you want to get involved in judging KCBS and doing what we do, which is meeting up with loads of friends that we know, both British friends, German friends, Belgian friends, Dutch friends, in random places, particularly in Belgium and Europe, Belgium and the Netherlands, go on the KCBS website particularly, or come and speak to us and find out where there's judging courses. Because all you need to do to become a KCBS judge is go and do a judging course, which takes about 2-3 hours from memory, and then you can judge at any KCBS contest anywhere in the world. Like I said, we've judged in the States, we've judged in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Ireland, and obviously the UK. So that's all it takes. And like, I would be lying if I said we go all that way just to judge barbecue, because we don't, because the social aspect around it is so important. We've made some of the best friends that we have, kind of doing this and traveling to weird and wonderful places. So Mark and Ange, who are kind of our reps in the UK, they're kind of both KCBS reps and SCA, which means they don't organise the contest, but they act on behalf of KCBS and SCA. They turn up at the contest and make sure they're kind of run to the right standard and to the right rules and processes. They're some of our best friends, and we would never have known them or met them had we not got involved in this. And now, we're kind of talking about whether we're going to go to meet them in Nashville next year for Angie's birthday, things like this. It's kind of it's so weird. But so if you want to do, like, just go and judge barbecue, KCBS, SCA, just find out where there's a course. There's not many, so you do have to get lucky and find one, and do the course, and then you can go and judge. They're always done in English as well, so that's the rule. So whether that course happens in Belgium, the Netherlands, Italy, the course is always in English. So that's the international language of barbecue. So anyone can turn up and do it, particularly from the UK. If you want to judge in this country, for freestyle and stuff, at the moment we primarily use KCBS and SCA judges to judge our freestyle contests. Possibly next year we're going to start running a course for people just to learn about judging freestyle barbecue. So that hopefully might be something next year that people can get involved with. But that's kind of like how you get involved, particularly kind of in Europe. You just do a course and turn up and make friends and go and drink ridiculously strong Belgian beer in bars in Belgian towns. It's great.
And obviously, you mentioned right at the beginning that you're here to promote competition barbecue across the UK primarily, as well as Europe. People joining and competing, but what you've obviously just been talking about around judging, is there also a need for more judges here in the UK?
I think there was a time where we had a lot more judges than we needed for the amount of contests, but that's gone now. So the kind of the mildly challenging situation we have, particularly around KCBS, is that, like I said at the start, there's only one KCBS contest in the UK at the moment, and that's the one we organise. Back before COVID, there was kind of 4 or 5. So it's kind of it's quite hard in the UK to get into that KCBS world, but because it's now been a long time since we were at that peak of judges, people, as they do, kind of drift away. They get involved in other things, and it is a hobby, and hand on heart, it can be an expensive hobby if you want to gallivant all over Europe and stuff like that. So people do tend to drift in and drift out. Generally, there's a core, but that does happen. So so we like you say, we'd love new people to get involved, compete in teams, whether it's just like one person or 2, 3, 4 friends who want to get together and form a team. But also, we need people who are interested in judging as well. It sounds strange, but the contest that we ran in Cheltenham, we had judges that came from, let me get this right. So we had judges from Nashville, we had judges from Dallas, Texas, we had judges from the Netherlands, Australia, and Ireland as well. And they all came on their own dime to judge our tiny little contest in Cheltenham. And that's the kind of community it is. People make they do it as part of a holiday. They go off traveling around Europe, particularly the Americans. They do like to come and travel around Europe and do like 2, 3, 4 contests while they're here. But because that happened, there was another contest the same weekend in the Netherlands, and they were struggling for judges purely because me and my wife were in this country. Mark and Ange were repping our contest, and they would have normally been judging. The 2 Dutch judges who'd come over to our contest weren't available, so they were struggling to get judges because of our tiny little contest. So we do need more people to get involved, and it'd be great if they were kind of British people who want to come judge some contests. Like I said, join the little community of barbecue judges that meets up in the UK, in Europe, and kind of get involved in that, because it's just such a great social scene, I've already said.
Different view of what you're talking about. Do you think becoming a judge has improved your barbecuing skills because you know
100%.
What you're looking for?
Do you know what? It's kind of, I'm not a big fan of, like, I would never cook a competition brisket or competition ribs. I like my ribs much. If you were judging my ribs when I've cooked them for KCBS, you would say they were massively overdone, because KCBS standard is that the meat doesn't fall away from the bone. So from a KCBS point of view, it's good to get tips and tricks. You see, kind of speak to the teams and find out how they do certain things, where they get some of their meat from, and things like that. But I would never cook meat like that. But interestingly, the freestyle stuff is like, some of the teams are so creative and come up with some amazing things. And I'll give you an example. So at our contest last year at Valley Fest, one of the rounds was just cheese. That was the round name. It was cheese. You could do whatever you want as long as, like, the main thing was cheese. And probably the best freestyle team in the UK, a team called Wonky Donkeys, which is a great name. They did this really simple kind of cheese pie. I think it was like a cheese and ham pie. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever eaten. And you kind of, and it's moments like that you go, oh, that's the thing I could, like, that triggers something in me that goes, oh, when I cook that, I'm going to do that. So the freestyle stuff definitely kind of, while I am kind of a bit creative when it comes to, like, cooking and stuff like that, I never have those big ideas, those big grand ideas. So having those little triggers from these amazing teams that kind of cook these incredible things, just having those little triggers, like just to make me go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I can use that idea, or that theory or whatever. So yeah, it's great. It's definitely given me loads more ideas and probably more confidence as well, because you kind of understand what's possible, and it's easy to kind of think that a barbecue, in the traditional sense, is all about sausages and burgers, or if you kind of obviously come from a American southern states, is all about low and slow. But actually, it's kind of so much more. It's baking, it's frying, it's grilling, it's broiling, it's all these things, which, my own personal opinion, can be made better just with that flavor of smoke, or that flavor of char, or or whatever. So it's definitely both inspired me and educated me, just seeing what these guys do.
One of the things that we hold really dear on the podcast, Kev, is our barbecue fails. We want to hear about some of the things that haven't gone well. So I don't really know perhaps what stories you've got, but it can be from your own personal kind of cooking experiences, or even perhaps some real fails that you've had as a judge, or
throw people under the bus is what I was asked there. It could be what you've done, or if you
Name
had
and
some
shame.
real crap, just lob that in front.
I'll preface this by saying that I don't know the names of the people involved in this, and the reason will become clear. So the first time me and my wife went to the States to judge, we didn't go specifically for that. We were going on holiday. We found a local contest that was happening, and we went there. And it was quite a big contest in Florida. I think there was about 70 or 80 teams, which by our standards is huge, but by American standards is kind of, mid-sized contest. And they tend to have in the States, they tend to have what they call the professional side and the backyard side. So kind of two parallel contests. The professionals aren't professional; it just means that they've competed before, or they've won contests before. And our judging table was judging the backyard side, and one of the teams that we ended up judging was a team of American guys who were on stag do. So basically, their stag weekend, they'd gone to a barbecue contest to cook, and they decided they were going to, for chicken, they did chicken wings, and they were absolutely incinerated. Like, they must have been so hungover, because it's hard to burn chicken wings, right? Especially if you're smoking them. So God knows what they did. But yeah, this box turned up. They opened this box, and there's all these teams that have spent hours cooking their in their $500,000 kind of trailer rigs and stuff like that, and we get this one team that was hungover and cooked the most acrid burnt chicken wings I've ever tasted in my life. So they didn't win. They came a strong second. No, they didn't. But yeah. And I was like, I just thought the amount of money they must have spent to be there. And then they obviously woke up in the morning and just thought, we've made a terrible, terrible decision. We just need to get something in a box. And then presumably they all went back to bed for 6 hours, woke up and realised that they'd burned the chicken wings. Still handed them in.
It's brilliant. Have you ever been to competitions where people have abandoned it? Just gone, now we're going home.
Do you know what? No, I don't, because generally speaking, you don't see it much. They're very strict. Kind of all contests are very strict on what time you have to turn in your entry. So general rule of thumb is 1 second late is disqualified. There's been some very, very near misses. Mentioning no names, there's some kind of repeat offenders of people who kind of sprinting across a field with a box stretched out in front of them, hoping not to trip over to try and get it on the table before the clock ticks round. So you get that, but I've never seen anyone throw in the towel. Generally, it's a very supportive atmosphere. So if you're in trouble, if you're in and in a situation where you don't think you're going to get it done, you won't believe the amount of teams that will pitch in and help, and try and kind of get you over the line. Because like a lot of teams have done quite well by having one terrible round and three pretty good rounds. So like it's one round down, just get it in, just don't get disqualified, because you never know what could happen. So it is incredibly rare, to the point where I've never seen it, but I think there's probably been a few that have been pretty close.
I'd love to move on to actually trying to give you a bit of a challenge to cook something. We're talking about competition barbecue, our barbecue bingo challenge, where I'll show you the very expensive wheel that we've spent a lot of money on.
Oh, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Oh my word, look at this. Look at this.
I know. Kids haven't eaten for a week just to pay for it. So on here, we've got a load of ingredients. All of these have been left by previous guests.
Right. Okay.
Apart from my signature dish. So, which would be your signature dish. What are you best known for? So if it lands on that, we'd love you to cook your signature dish. What would you say people know you best?
So my signature, do you know, it's probably not a specific dish, but what I love cooking the most, mainly because I really like eating it and my wife really likes eating it, is Greek stuff. So we love Greek stuff. So, you know,
bit of gyros.
Yeah, like spinach and feta pies and slow cooked beef and kind of Mediterranean sauce and stuff. So yeah, we cook a lot of that. My wife makes this amazing Greek honey cake on the barbecue, which is, because honey's obviously got, like, good honey's got that slightly smoky flavor anyway. Greek honey cake done on the barbecue is insanely good. It's one of my favorite things, which has reminded me she's not cooked it for a long time, so probably need to get on that. But yeah, so probably not a specific dish, but probably Greek food as a genre more than anything.
Just for the people listening, conscious not everyone watches on YouTube, to name kind of some of the different ingredients, or things that are on here: paella, frog legs, squid, tripe, kangaroo. Good luck getting that. Beef neck, andouille sausage, vindaloo paste, goat, octopus, pineapple, monkfish, chicken hearts, duck, Szechuan peppers. There's quite a few different bits of variety there. And if anyone at home wants to play along, please do buy whatever this lands on and cook along and tag us in. We'd love to see what people can do.
Absolutely. Right, Kev. So we'll give it a spin.
Go for it.
Actually, just before, is there anything that you're absolutely dreading?
So vindaloo paste, while I absolutely love spice and heat, my tolerance goes up and up and up, and then it comes to an absolute dead stop. And then the second you go over that, it's painful. I'm not interested. And vindaloo, depending on where you get it from, can either be above or below that line. So yeah. And I have never eaten octopus, and I have no intention of ever eating octopus. There's something about the suckers I don't like. Too many people have told me as well how delicious it is, which has just made me even more stubborn that I've got no intention of eating octopus. So yeah, those are probably two that stand out. I'm like, that, please no.
You've tempted fate for sure. Right, come on, let's give it a go. It is generally random, but if it does land on it, amazing.
To be fair, last week it landed on what the person was talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's close, right?
It is close, but there's no suckers involved with squid, so it's not too
squid. Yeah,
squid. There we are. What's your first thoughts?
Calamari obviously is kind of the obvious thing, which is really probably the only thing I've ever really cooked with squid. I have seen and eaten like stuffed squid, kind of that's cooked really like slow and low. But yeah, I'm not. Yeah, so probably something like that. I don't know how versatile is squid, apart from just grilling it, calamari in it, and stuffing it. I'm not sure if there's much more you can do with it. Maybe there is. Maybe I'm Philistine when it comes to squid. Who knows?
Is it occasionally used in ceviche? I mean, it's not so much barbecue, though, is it?
No,
show it to the grill and put
it's almost the antithesis of barbecue, isn't it?
Here's a KJ. Now let's have some lime.
Yeah.
You could grill the lime at least.
Yeah.
Okay, and so to keep with tradition, what ingredient would you like to leave for potentially another guest?
I would leave just something I've eaten this weekend actually, which I always really like, and then always forget about them for kind of 8 months of the year. So padron peppers, I love padron peppers,
Oh,
and they're
yes.
such an acquired, like a strange acquired taste. Because when you eat them, you go, these are so bitter and kind of savoury, but weirdly delicious. Like olives, it's kind of like that similar sort of vibe. But yeah, padron peppers.
I've accidentally spun it twice, so sorry about that.
I'm glad I just saw that the second one said chicken hearts, and I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah, padron peppers again, not something that I have that often, but
Do you know, weirdly,
again,
I went through a stage a couple of years ago of growing chilies, and I grew a load of padron peppers, and found out that you can't freeze them because they just turn to mush when you defrost them. But yeah, weirdly, the only kind of supermarket that sells them is Lidl. That's kind of the only supermarket around here that actually sells them. So
Is that because they're a little pepper?
yeah,
You can't be pitching me stuff like that, and I can't go. I can't be
that
swinging
man a
for
beer.
You cannot be throwing me stuff like that and not expecting me to bite at that.
It's kind of, when you see something that you grow, but like weirdly inside you're very impressed. I'm not going to say it was definitely like that, but it was definitely a bit like that.
Yeah. And that was how the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast finished.
Yeah.
Talking about that though, so I had Owen over on the weekend, a bit of a barbecue fail, slightly in a feline shaped way. But I did a brisket. I'd been out Friday night, got back at about midnight and put the barbecue on then. And this brisket, about 11 and a half hours it took, 3.75 kilo brisket. Came out really, really good.
Yeah.
But I also did a pork belly bone in. I took the skin off it to make crackling, which I've still got, which I'm gonna have as a snack in the week because why not?
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. So cook this pork belly, cut it up with some sausages. I was gonna serve it with like little pedron peppers on the side. And my wife, I'll blame Steph for this, was like, do you know what? Put it in the dining room, we'll all sit outside and people just go in and serve themselves. Like, okay, so did that. Did some sausages for the children as well, just in case they didn't want kind of brisket style pork belly. Really happy with how it came out. Luckily, I had a few bits before kind of putting it on the side. Put it out, said to everyone, food's out. And everyone said, oh, do you know what? We'll wait a little bit for the brisket. So we'll sit down and just give it a little while. Two of the children come out 5 minutes later. Cat's on the table. I was like, right. Do you wanna expand on that? Yeah, he's licking all over everything. I said, define everything. Everything. I was like, okay. Have you got him off the table? No, he's still there. Why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
So
I stood watching him for 10 minutes.
Yeah, to get rid of the full top level of the pork that I'd done. So like maybe half of the pork belly.
Yeah.
I'd done 6 sausages. 3 of the sausages went straight away. But, right, should we bring everything outside now? But it hadn't even occurred to me because like we've recently moved. I've not talked about it on the podcast. It's not something that constantly comes up. But it's not something he's ever done before, even in the old house. So it never occurred to me that maybe a cat would like meat if we left it out. So I learned a very strong lesson there, but at least the brisket came out really good.
I think the main lesson to learn there is if no one saw it, don't tell anyone, and it'll be fine.
Oh, well, I think it's pretty obvious when 2 children come screaming out to announce it to not just everyone in the garden, but the neighbors.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a barbecue fail this week that just annoyed me. So I've recently got a new wood-fired oven. So again, I don't want to use it just for pizza. I want to cook, all sorts in it.
Yeah.
So it was just me and my wife. The kids were away at the in-laws, so it was quite nice. Did a nice beef chili, but I had some braising steak. And originally I was going to do like a slow cooked chili or a casserole or whatever. And the wife was like, should we put it on in the morning? I went, no, that's fine. I tell you what, I'm going to fire up the new wood-fired oven and we'll cook it. So I was cooking this chili for about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half, and it started to really kind of thicken up and you start to get the really nice kind of flavoring on the top. And I was like, yeah, really happy with this. So honestly, the beef was like chewing a shoe. It just hadn't had that hours and hours just to kind of break down. I should have done it with sirloin steak. So the problem is I was making some content and I put it up on our stories yesterday. So it looked all right, but no one actually knew that I couldn't eat it and had to actually use a slow cooker the next day just to make it palatable.
That's what I think that about most of the kind of Instagram and TikTok.
100% agree with you.
You go, that looks amazing, but I just don't know how it tastes because the whole thing is texture. So it's just this kind of like, I just don't trust it. I don't trust that they're all amazing. I just don't.
Well, like the brisket I did on the weekend, I didn't take any photos of it once I'd actually properly sliced it up on the platter, which annoyed me. But that's because I took photos when I initially cut it and a bit of video, and then I'm just focused on the food because I want everyone to have hot food, nice food, you know? Anyone who takes that long setting it up, I was like, that's cold. That's cold. I'm cooking a chili right now, by the way. It's been on for 5 hours. So I hope it's good and it's not boiled dry because I can't do anything about it right now. But I've got
all those burnt bits on the bottom. That's texture and that's flavor.
Yeah. So that wasn't the end, unfortunately. So then I was panicking trying to find something. So I ended up doing beef chili nachos because we had some mince, etc. But I bought some new pans recently. All of our non-stick pans had gone. The oven was still up and hot, so I thought, well, again, I'll use that. So put the new pan in, and it seemed okay. But then as I pulled it out, actually it's probably a bit too big for the oven. So I've scratched all of the non-stick off around the rim, which is great. Then I've got one of the old pans, which is a metal handle. And I was just faffing around and ended up taking it out without my glove on and burning my bloody fingers. So all in all, the whole evening was just fail. But I had some very nice beef nachos at the end of it.
Speaking of hot pan handles, when we were at our contest at Cheltenham, there was a small barbecue demo stage right next to us, and Shane McBagley, so shout out to Shane McBagley, who does great stuff on Facebook and Instagram, American guy that lives here in the UK now, does a lot of works for Weber and does a load of barbecue content. In front of like a crowd of people watching him do a demo, picked up a metal handled pan that had been inside a big Weber Summit for about half an hour. To be fair, he let it go really quickly, so he didn't do any damage, but he fronted it out so well. Like we saw it and spoke to him afterwards, so we knew about it, but no one else knew. And so shout out to Shane for for his demos, but also incredible pain threshold.
Oh yeah,
but he is a chef. Chef have all got Teflon hands on anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so Kev, just as we kind of come to the end, is there anything else that perhaps we haven't covered in terms of competition barbecue or barbecue? Or actually, it doesn't even need to be barbecue, but just, is there anything else that you want to kind of talk to us about or shout about?
So just like if anyone is interested in competing, getting involved, you can go to our website, compbarbecueuk.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can search for Comp Barbecue UK on Facebook or Instagram. Those are we do a little bit on TikTok, but not loads. So that's our kind of primary stuff. You can drop us emails. If you go to our website, there's a contact us. Give me a shout. If you've got any questions about getting involved or just want more information and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that really just, I guess the kind of the one message I just wanted to get across was that competition barbecue is a kind of a really fun community of people who've just got this passion for this hobby that they do. So anyone can do it. If you've got barbecue and you can get hold of a gazebo or even just a big brolly or whatever, if it rains, you can come to these contests and cook stuff and compete and get involved, whether you do it yourself, with a family member, with 2 or 3 friends or whatever. You can pull your kit and and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just get in touch, give us a shout. If anyone's at Malden, then I'll be knocking around the judging tent probably for most of the Saturday and Sunday, doing stuff. They had me up on stage doing kind of comparing last year, so I don't know whether that happened again. But yeah, I'll do my best to wear a Comp Barbecue t-shirt or hoodie or something. So come and grab me and say hello and whatnot. And and kind of just reach out and give me a shout if anyone's got any questions or is interested.
To be fair, as a judge, are you not used to comparing things?
Oh, God,
that's two in a very short space of time.
You can't leave me with things like that.
We call him the cunning punt.
Yeah. The worst thing about that is I feel like the second I said it, he thought it, and then he was waiting for a gap.
Oh yeah. That was logged.
Yeah,
it was in the eyes.
I've got to wait for this one.
Oh, dear. Anyway, Kev, honestly, lovely to meet you, and it was really good to talk more about the comp scene. And thank you very much for coming onto the podcast.
No, thanks for having us, guys. It's been really fun, and I appreciate you inviting me along and getting me to talk about what I love. So yeah, thanks a lot.
And apologies for Jan's shit jokes.
Shut the hell up. Jealous cook signing off right there.
Thanks,
Kev.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
That's it for another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue Podcast. It's great to hear from Kev and understand a little bit more about the kind of competition barbecue scene in the UK and Europe. As ever, we'd want to hear from you. Please do get in touch through the socials. The link in the description that you can contact us directly. And until next time, keep on grilling. Today's episode is brought to you by AOS Kitchens, the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.